I was able to do it, but it was hard.
It's hard to have that boundary because we're empathetic people, right? You probably wouldn't be here if you weren't empathetic in some way, right? So it's hard to tell people no. It's hard to tell them fix it yourself, or you're able. Let me show you how. You know, it's really difficult.
Especially when they know how. They just want to pass it on to you because they don't want to do it.
They know you're a yes girl. And you know what? That's a role that we didn't think about as crap collector, right?
Crap collector, I love it.
Where everybody's crap collectors, like dump all your extra responsibilities, or your sorrows, your worries, you know. But we have to learn how to just put that down and not put it in our backpack again, right? It's hard, and you know, that's one thing we have to be really careful about, is not caring more about it than the person that it's for. Like, they have to care about it more than we do for them, right? They have to.
Well, then I don't need to help you with it then.
I don't mind helping you pump the tire, but you need to keep the tires on, right? Yeah. There you go. I know. So in order to know where we are going in life, like what we're aiming for, you have to have a target. You have to know what it is, right? Because we talked about, we get in this rut just doing the same thing day after day after day. And if we don't know where we're going, even if we pull some brand new great habits into our life, we will circle back and we'll end up back in the rut again because we didn't know what we were aiming for. So when we begin looking at what we're aiming for, we have to understand a couple of things about ourselves. We have to understand, first of all, where we're going, where we're at right now. You have to know where you're at and where you want to go to figure out the path in between. Does that make sense? Like, you have to know where you're at. Then the third thing is that you have to know that you're capable of getting there. Do you believe that you're capable? Right? So you have to know what your skills are, what your gifts are, what your habits are. You have to know who you are to know whether you can even handle the path from where you're at to where you want to go. Make sense? Then you're going to look at obstacles. What's in the way? What's in that path between you and where you want to be? What the opportunities are? How are you going to get there? Is there a motorboat in the middle that's going to help you speed along? Are there things that are going to push you faster toward your goal? We're going to have to look at those things, and those are some of the things we're going to look at next week. And who's going to stand beside us and cheer us on, and who's going to be an obstacle? Remember when we talked about our roles last week, and we thought, okay, we have people in our life that love us and cheer us on, and then we have people that throw expectation. They hand us these big boulders, and we put them in our backpack, and we carry them around with all the shoulds. We have to anticipate who those people are along the path. And sometimes we can't anticipate, and so we have to just be ready. And how do we prepare ourselves? It's by knowing who we are, right? If we know who we are, then the world doesn't get to tell us who we are. So we're going to look at some exercises today to help us understand that path and what we need to do to get there. So the first page that I want you to look at is this one that says life purpose, and it has a big target. So it says at the top, your life purpose. What is life purpose? It is a combination of your gifts, the things that God built inside of you, those innate abilities, and then it's also the things that you're fascinated with and the experiences that you have in your life and your faith. So that's what your life purpose is. It's a combination of all those amazing things coming together. So to take that out of so much vocabulary and give you an example, to look at your life purpose, I want you to think about the things in your life that you already love. The things that you would do, like if you had all the time in the world to do them. Those are the things that you're interested in. Think about the things that you help others with. You're great at helping people understand their problems and kind of pull the threads apart of that massive dust bunny that they've created. You can help them pull it apart. That's a gift that you have because you're not educated in that, right? Yeah. So if you love to cook and you love to experiment in the kitchen, that's a gift that you have innately. Maybe you understand how spices work, and a lot of people don't. So that's just something that's inside of you. Maybe anticipating or being intuitive about people's emotions, or understanding social situations, or how to prepare an event. You know all the details that go into this. You can think, okay, this is what we have to have, and then you can go backwards and say, okay, if this is what it's going to look like, we have to get the table, we have to have the tablecloth, we have to have the pins, we have to have the clipboards, we have to have, and that's another gift. So think for a minute about what it is in your life that you've been doing this whole time that you didn't even really think about as a strength. You just do it because you do it. But really, that's what makes you different than someone else. Now, if you look at what those things are and you look back at your life, you can tell that you've been doing them consistently. People call on you for those things and you probably didn't even realize it because you haven't had 3 seconds to stop and say, wow, let me just look at my life, right? We don't have time for that. That's what we're doing here. We're taking that time to actually look at our life from a 30,000 foot perspective and go, Michelle's pretty cool. She's got it going on. And we don't take the time to do that because we're just like full speed ahead. So what I want to do is have you back up a little bit. In some of my other classes and some of the downloads that you can get on our website, there's one that talks about looking back over your life and understanding the river that you've crossed. Your earliest memory to where you are today. So your earliest memory being the other side of the river. And your memories up till today standing on the shore looking back across that river. Now you had to get through the rapids and you had to step on stones to get across. Those stones were the lessons in your life. Some of them were terrifying as the rapids were crashing over the top of you, and others you had a little bit higher place and you could see the water going around you, but it wasn't touching you. But it was still a little intimidating. It was a time to learn. Can you think of some of those times in your life? So in that lesson, I help you understand how to go back and look at each one of those things and understand how they have affected your life to this point. And that's how you pull some of your strengths out. Because even those things that were difficult and scary, when my mom had to have brain surgery, it was terrifying. But I can look back now and I can see the lessons and I can see the wisdom that I learned and I can see the things that God carried me through and the ways that I'm stronger and more confident in those situations than I thought I ever could be. Have you ever made it through something you never thought you could endure? Of course you have. Okay? You're far stronger than you can even imagine. I know some of your stories and you guys are all amazing. So, as you look at this target and you think about your life purpose, you're also going to look at your gifts. Okay? So as we look at this big target, I'm going to back up a little bit. As you look at this great big target, the first ring on the target where you see the polka dots, okay, those are your gifts, your God-given talents and interests, okay? So that's the first thing we need to understand. Those are the things that we do innately. And then when you pull it together with your life experience, the things that you're interested in, your career experience, the friends that you've made, the faith that you've developed, that pulls you closer to understanding and having joy because you're putting your gifts into action. Okay? For me, this boot camp is all of that. So this is a combination for me. This is my life purpose. And that's why I'm bound and determined, like I'm walking forward. I'm not gonna get to the end of my life and wish I would have and wonder if I could have. So I looked at my life and I thought, shoot, I was the little kid that my dad was in a car accident when I was little and didn't know who we were or who he was. My parents went through a divorce. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. And then as life came along, I graduated, got married, had kids, and then my aunt, who was my best friend in the whole world, died early, suddenly. When she was supposed to be my mentor, she was supposed to be the one left after my grandparents, after my parents. You know how we look at those tiers in life and we think, well, that's the order they're going to go in. Grandparents, then parents, then you've got your aunt, uncle, and you've got some security, right? So you still have that foundation. Well, my aunt left first. I was like, she was my holdout. She was the one that was going to be there the longest, and she left first. That wasn't supposed to happen like that. And then shortly after that, my mom fell on her head and had a traumatic brain injury. And then she started to get well. And then my dad had a stroke and never recovered and couldn't speak and couldn't understand. And then he died of lung cancer. And then my uncle 3 months later, or my grandfather 3 months later, died of brain cancer. And then several years later, my mom died. And it's like, you just look at all this and you think, how can I be 51 years old and have all of these people gone out of my life? That's not how it's supposed to go. But I look at all of that and I think, okay, Lord, I had to grow up fast because maybe you knew they were leaving and I had to learn fast because I was going to need it. And so I look back at the things that have happened in my life, the mistakes that I made, the choices that I made, the roles that were thrown on me that I didn't choose. And all of those things made me strong. When they first hit me, I crumbled. I had my panic attacks and I had all of the anxiety and the depression and the worry and the like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do all of this? But then I looked back across the river and I thought, I'm built for this. I understand people. And now because of everything I've gone through, I can be empathetic and I can be compassionate. And there are so many people that I can identify with because I've been through so much. And because I made it through, now I look at women who got stuck on one of those places and haven't made it through. And I have to throw them like floaties. I'm like, here you go. Like, come on, keep swimming, keep swimming. And that's why I do what I do. And the fact that all of the years of marketing where I did websites and I did television production and I did video editing, and while I was raising my kids, I was learning these things. It all comes together for this beautiful path. And it just feels like the most exciting thing in the whole world to me. It never feels like work. And it just pours out of me. And that's where I want to help you. I want to help you find that place. And maybe you're there. Maybe you're right on the edge. Maybe you're like ready to fly and you're afraid to jump. But I have chills talking to you because I just want you to feel the way I feel. You have this centeredness and you have this sense of purpose, and you can walk in a room and know who you are, and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks because you know where you've been and you know what you know, and you know that they don't know what you know. You bring something totally incredible to the table that they don't have. And then talking to them, you know that you have something I don't have. And so that makes me excited to talk to you and to learn about you because you're here to teach me. So you guys think you came to learn, I'm learning from you. All right, so that's how we find the joy. So that's our first worksheet, and that's how we find the joy, is understanding your gifts, looking at your life purpose. So let's go to the next page and look at 1 week in paradise. And so anybody that's following along on the video, we're looking at this worksheet, 1 week in paradise. What I want you to think about, this is going to help you discover what your life purpose is. So if you were going to be, I'm going to pick you up in my private plane, my invisible jet, right, Wonder Woman? I'm going to pick you up in my invisible jet, and I'm going to take you and I'm going to drop you off kind of on Fantasy Island, your little island paradise. Now, Fantasy Island, if you ever watched that show way back, is a magical place. Whatever you think happens, happens. Whatever you dream about happens. Things just appear. So you are living in the land of good and plenty. Anything you want, you can have. You can have a longer day, a longer night. You can have any foods you can imagine. You can ship over any friend that you want, any celebrity that you want. You can look how you want. You can speak any language you want. And it's all about you. This is your place. So for 1 week on this island, you can have anything you want. Money's no object. Resources are no object. If you want to be a gourmet chef, you just wish it and everything will appear and you just cook your heart out. And if you want to cook for 30 hours and you want to wish that you're not going to be tired, you won't be tired. So this island is yours. So this next week, I want you to think about the things that are on this sheet. You're going to think about the activities that you would do in this island paradise. What would you do? Doesn't matter if you got a bum knee. You want to be a downhill skier, go for it. Okay? You want to be a famous singer for a day? It's yours. So just dream up crazy activities on there, okay? Guilty pleasures. What's a guilty pleasure? What might that be? Food with no calories, right?
Eat what I want.
Eat whatever you want, right? No consequences, no blood sugar level issues, no calorie issues. You can listen to music as loud as you want, or you could just wish in the most beautiful birds to sing for you while you lay in a hammock and call the cabana boy to bring you a drink. It's your island. Like, you can do whatever you want. You can wish in a best friend for a few hours and wish your best friend away. Okay? So guilty pleasures. And who is with you? That's another category. So who's with you on this island? Now remember, this is your worksheet. This is your island. You get to pick anybody you want to be with you on this island. So you don't have to say your kids for a week if you don't want your kids for a week. You get to pick who you want. And it can be anyone. If you want Bob Ross to come paint with you, then you put Bob Ross on your island. My daughter would totally choose Bob Ross. Okay? And then you're going to describe your days. Is it breezy? Is your island snowy? Didn't think about that, right? Islands are usually tropical, but you could have a snowy island if you want it. You could have a Disneyland island if you want it. I want to know what your heart wants. I want to know what you dream about. So that's fun with that one. Any questions on that worksheet? So just let your imagination go wild. Think about it while you're driving down the street. These are great things to be thinking about instead of stress. The things that stress you out, stop trying to solve problems. Give your brain a break and let your mind wander and be joyful. Okay? So be thinking about your magical paradise while you're driving down the road. Give your brain a break. So we're going to talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But this week we're only talking about our strengths. Our opportunities and our threats we're going to talk about when we look at mapping our progress next week. Okay? So this week, strengths. And I'm going to read some to you. I have a massive, massive list. And I want you to just listen. If one strikes you, I want you to write it down. And I can send this list to you. Okay. I wasn't kidding. All right. So these are all positive characteristics. These are strengths, all right? The strength is something that actually gives us momentum forward. Something that gives us courage, something that gives us tenacity, something that gives us empathy can be another strength. Anything that builds you up or allows you to build up someone else would be a strength. Okay, so here's a few in alphabetical order. Adaptable. See, these are ones you probably wouldn't have thought of. Like, we're like, oh, I'm smart, I'm pretty, whatever. Okay. Appreciative, athletic, balanced, charismatic, courageous, decisive. So if you think of your own word, write it down or grab one of these. Dynamic, educated, faithful, friendly, honest, humble, independent, logical, modest, optimistic, passionate, patient, persuasive, purposeful, resourceful, spontaneous, shrewd, sophisticated, sympathetic, venturesome, youthful, witty. There's a few for you to think about. So what I did is I Googled strengths list, and that's where you can find these. But I want you to fill yours out this week, thinking about you specifically. And you can actually ask someone in your life to fill it out for you. That's kind of fun. All right. So our next sheet is the opposite. Weaknesses. What do you think about weaknesses? How would you describe weaknesses? Something that you're not good at. Something that holds you back. Something that makes you doubt yourself. Something that you hide from others. Right? Something that makes you feel inferior. Those might be things that are weaknesses. So now I'm going to give you a few of those to think about. All right. Are you abrasive, bewildered, callous, complacent, crafty? I think they mean that in a bad way, not like Michael's Joanne's crafty. They mean like, are you planning something terrible against other people? So here's another one, devious, right? Along the same lines. Are you disorderly, disobedient? Are you extreme? Are you fearful? Are you gullible? Impulsive, irrational, malicious, narcissistic. That's like a big buzzword these days, right? Obsessive, obnoxious, opinionated. Are you pompous, possessive, secretive, sloppy, thoughtless, timid, ungrateful, unreliable, weak, so how did those hit you? Did you find a few just in those? This is the good news. Have you ever been through a job interview and they tell us, all right, tell me your strengths, right? Or you've interviewed, or you've interviewed the person, you said, tell me your strengths. How about when you have been asked your weaknesses? What's the smart thing to do in an interview? You have to come up with something or they're going to think that...
I'd say, I'm sure I have some, but nothing comes to mind at the moment.
I say I work too hard.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you think of something you say if people say, well, what's your weakness? What do we look forward to working on together with you?
I take my work home.
You take your work home? Mm-hmm. So the smart thing to do in an interview is to plan ahead to have a weakness that you can share with them that's actually to benefit. Okay? So my weakness is that I have an ownership mentality. I'm not a great employee because I take ownership of what I do and I want to do it perfectly, and I'm going to find a more efficient way to do it, and I don't want to leave until the deadline is hit and until my work is done. So I'm not a great punch the clock. Okay, and they're going to be thinking, right on, you know? So But that's what I want to share with you, is that when you look at your weaknesses, there's actually strength in them. If God made us on purpose, everything about us is on purpose, your strengths and your weaknesses, God planned them all, then there's goodness in them, and we have to find that. So, tell me a weakness. Tell me one that hit. Nobody wants to share. Everybody's like, impulsive. Okay. So no matter what word you come up with to describe a weakness in your life, you are more empathetic to somebody else who's impulsive, because you understand being impulsive, right? So if you capitalize on that and you really study yourself and understand why you're impulsive, are you excited? Are you anticipating a great outcome, and that's why you're impulsive? Are you a visionary because you're impulsive? You see what could actually happen if you make this decision right now. So there's all kinds of good things that come from the weaknesses. Things that we consider weakness, or things that people on the internet would put on this gigantic list, are actually things that are powerful. So I cry if a Hallmark commercial's on too long. Like, I'm gone. They can make me cry so easy. There's like a whole, lake full of tears behind this dam. And if it cracks, it's like, look out, here it comes. But the thing about being empathetic is that I can sit with someone and I can really put my feet in their shoes and understand what's happening to them. It's part of why I do what I do, right? Because I get it. So, but that would somewhat be considered a weakness. Okay, so as you go through, I want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to go through the worksheet and then do your strengths. Really pat yourself on the back. Listen to what people have said to you. We're not good at taking compliments, right? No, everybody's like, yeah, thanks. Just look them in the eyes and say thank you. Practice that. When somebody gives you a compliment, just say thank you. You don't have to shrug it off, and you don't have to hide from it. Just own it and say thank you, and then put it on your list. Okay? And then the weaknesses, I want you to think about those things too. But I want you to realize that every weakness you come up with, I'm going to help you pull a strength out of it. If we all fit together in this world like a big puzzle. I really believe that we're here to be together. That's why you have different strengths than I have. You have different weaknesses that I have that are hidden strengths. You have different gifts and talents than I have. But that's why we're supposed to work together. So if you look at us like a puzzle piece, so a strength being the outy part and the weakness being the inny part, where I have a strength and you have a weakness, we fit together. And that's how the puzzle all comes together to form this beautiful picture. And so it's all on purpose. So don't be hard on yourself anymore. When you think that you're weak in one area, I want you to really sit down and ponder that and look at what you're able to do for someone else because of what you can identify with. Does that make sense? Have you ever thought about it that way before? Yeah. So it's really powerful. The word personality originates from the Latin word persona. Makes sense, right? Which refers to the masks that were worn by theater performers to hide their identity or portray a different role. What?
Your personality is to hide your...
I know, a performa was a mask that hid their original personality and allowed them to become someone else. Isn't that fascinating? So when we talk about someone's personality, I guess we're admitting that we really don't know that person. We're just looking from the outside in. It's fascinating, huh? Yeah. So, what do we do with that? I think we have to realize that no matter what somebody shows us, we have to realize there's a deeper person inside. So someone that's acting confident or overconfident or snobby or conceited, we're just seeing a personality, a performa, a mask. There's a reason inside that they're behaving the way that they are. So why we're looking at our strengths and our weaknesses, because each one of those things is part of the deeper part that tells us why we behave the way we do, why we have the personality, the performa that we do. And all of that affects how we see ourselves and affects how we stay in that rut. You seeing how this all ties together? Okay. I want you to think about that big target that we talked about in the very beginning. You have to know how to aim for the center of that target, and you have to know what the center of that target is. All right? So our next worksheet is our targets list. Okay. So on this targets list, each one of these targets at the bottom is a different part of your path. Okay, so you had roles that we looked at. These are the paths that you're taking that's going to get you to that joy place in the center of your target. So if you know that you want to retire and you want to live at the beach, and that's part of your big vision for your future, right? What are some of those targets you're going to have to hit the center of the big target? Okay, what are some of the goals that you need to accomplish on the way to the center where your joy is, that big target at the end? Okay, so one, if we're thinking about retirement, we're thinking about graduation, we're thinking about a new career, you're going to say, okay, one of my small targets is going to be working on, well, if you're going to retire, you better have a job, right? So that you can put money away. So savings might be one of your targets. Okay, so at the top in that arrow, you're going to put savings, because that's what you're going to do to hit this target that aims toward the big target. These are goals that go to the big target. If you are heading for a new career, maybe you need to work on your technical skills with software. Okay, if you're a student and you want to get into a great college, you're going to look at networking and doing internships and taking your classes, right? And being a well-rounded student. So maybe you're going to volunteer in community groups. You're going to learn some other skills that are going to be interesting to that major. Okay, so my daughter's a forestry major. And maybe what she needs to do before she graduates is she needs to find someone in the industry, and she needs to start doing interviews with these people and asking about their jobs to find out what the focus might be that she would like. Okay, so each one of these things across the top are the smaller goals that lead to your one big target. So take that first target out again. So we're working on identifying what this is in the center of the big target. Ultimate goal. Standing on the balcony, arms out to the side, what your life looks like, that vision. That's this one right here. Okay. Now as we shoot these arrows, we have to get good at aiming them, right? So we're going to practice. We're going to do some target shooting, and that's what this page is. Those are the practice target shooting. These are the practice shots. These are the little steps along the way that get you to the big aha, standing on that balcony. Okay? So what are some things that you can think of that you know that you need to work on? Anybody think of one out loud?
School. Going back to school.
Do you need to get a degree or just get some certifications, or?
Both.
Okay.
For a career change.
Good, good. So, and that's going to lead to your ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not in the career yet that you want to be in. So you're going to go back to school, going to get certifications, maybe get a degree. You're going to network with teachers and other students, and that's going to lead you right where you want to be. Perfect. You're trying to learn how to run a business. Probably, you need some accounting, and you may need some legal assistance too, and there's all kinds of resources. So those are going to be some of your targets. Okay. Kim, can you think of any?
Well, I'm just thinking like fitness and health, just because thinking about,
Because you have your job.
older and stuff.
Mhm.
I just, in retirement and stuff, I want to be a healthy person. I want to be able to travel and do stuff.
You want to feel good, look good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so maybe your daily fitness routine is a target. Is one of the practice shots that you're going to take, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. What do you think?
I put choosing my future, like career-wise, because I still have like college and everything to choose.
It's hard, and you guys have more pressure than ever to decide in high school what you want to do with the rest of your life, right? It was cute when you were a kid. We're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, an astronaut, you know, and, you know, you want to be like 15 things. But then all of a sudden in high school, the pressure's on. Everybody's like, seriously, like, what do you want to do? And I remember my daughters were panicked, like, as freshmen. And I just said, just relax. Seriously. Pick an area of interest, get your degree. That's the most important thing you can do. Just get a degree. And you may not even end up doing what you have that degree in, but what employers look for is they look for that person that knows how to set a goal and achieve it, to follow through, to do the red tape, to hop through the hoops. And if you paid for it yourself and you struggled, you get even more bonus points, you know? So absolutely, that's good for you. Yeah, thinking about those things. So those are all the little things that are going to go across. So as you write the title of the smaller step that you're taking towards your big goal at the top, I want you to write some of the steps so you can check them off, okay? So some of those steps, did you call the Small Business Administration? Have you filed your fictitious license? Have you gone to see a guidance counselor? Have you looked into the gym? Have you, are you doing some online fitness and nutrition stuff? Maybe you're doing that Hello Fresh, so you do learn some new cooking, right? Because they send you the recipe, they send you the ingredients, you have no excuse at that point.
Yeah.
Right? So these are all the things. So that's why all these funny little trails, and you'll notice that none of them are what?
Straight.
No, they are never straight. Right? Just like that coming across the river, when we look back at our life, it was never a straight path. If you ever find a person that had a straight path, they're probably not very fascinating. They're probably not very interesting, right? And they're not going to be the one that's going to sit and listen to your story because they have no idea. They cannot empathize, right? They don't have a lot of weaknesses on their list. They don't have a lot of weaknesses because they didn't try things. If you talk to anybody that's super successful in their life, you're going to find people that failed a lot and that were not afraid to fail. They were risk takers. And they not only, skinned their knees, they skinned their forehead and they skinned their friend's forehead. Like they were going for it. But that's how you become successful. It's trial and error and trial and error. They didn't stay in this rut that we keep talking about. They were like jumping out of the rut and falling back in and jumping out, trying new things, falling in somebody else's rut, right? We see lots of people falling in other people's ruts, right? Drugs, gangs, that's somebody else's rut, and people get drug into it because they don't know who they are, right? Your strength comes from here. All right, so that leads into our last page, the Heart Smart Target. These are steps to help you think about each one of those smaller tasks that lead up to your ultimate arms out to the side, looking over your life and thinking, I did it, this is good. Okay? SMART stands for S, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, relevant, and T, timely. So you're going to go through this worksheet and you're going to put the goal, whatever that target was at the bottom, the little targets across the bottom, you're going to write it right here for each one. And then you're going to answer these questions down the side. That's going to help you walk through the zigzag, twirly, dotted line that leads to hitting that target at the bottom. Yeah, we don't get to skip steps. Not very often. Every now and then you get to skip steps, but you're going to pay for it somehow. You might get to skip a few classes, or you might get to skip a few certifications and get hired into your dream job because of your personality and your experience and who you know. But you might find, I wish I would have taken that class that I got to skip. Right? Yeah. So it's like there's sequential thought that goes into it. So to wrap up our whole conversation today, last week was identifying our roles and the things that keep us in our rut, things that expectations. And this week we're talking about expanding our vision for where we're going and why, and what we're equipped to do. The most important thing in all of that is, first of all, believing that you're made for exactly this place and this time. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. This is not a mistake. And even if it's tough, there's a reason. There are people that you're supposed to meet. There are things that you're supposed to learn. There are things that you need to do that are going to prepare you for what's ahead. Relax. Take a deep breath. Exhale and realize that you're right where you're supposed to be. God's not done with you yet. And you have to know that you have everything inside of you already. You're going to learn some skills, you're going to meet some people, you're going to learn a few things that are going to take you forward and give you that momentum. But you're already strong. You're already courageous. If you do the exercise coming across the river, you'll see you're already doing it. So I want you to definitely high five that girl in the mirror. I want you to smile back at her and be proud of her. And I want you to believe that you are equipped to get to where you're going and you deserve it. That's how we make progress. It's like you have to know that you know that you know that you deserve what you're hoping for, and you have the gifts and the talents to get there, or you wouldn't even be able to imagine that goal. See, because your dream about that end goal is different than mine. Because your gifts and your talents and your guts and all your experience and everything is different than mine. You wouldn't even be able to imagine what you're thinking if you weren't equipped for it. See, I don't dream about being a chef because I don't have that. Right? I'm not dreaming of, being in a high affluent restaurant and being a chef, because that's not my experience. That's not my gifting. So that's not what's on my heart. Whatever's on your heart, you're already built for. So it's just getting your head and your heart and your gifting to match and having the courage to walk toward it. That's the cool thing. You wouldn't be able to dream it if you didn't already have it. I don't care how high up in a company you are. Mr., Miss Executive, CEO, CFO, whatever. If you had a quiet moment with that person and they were really honest with you, they'd tell you, I don't know what the heck I'm doing either. Everybody's trying to figure it out.
My boss tells me all the time, I'm just making it up.
Yeah.
Making it up as I go.
But why do we look up to them? Because they're brave enough to go for it and own it. So like if you choose your path and you choose the wrong path, but you were as intentional, you did as much homework as you could, you researched and you tried to make an educated decision, and you step out and it's the wrong choice, you just own it and you just start working for new paths right there. It's not the end of the road. Yeah, just keep going. Just keep working it out. Okay, so that was painful, and that was really public, and that was ugly. And so, but if you don't quit, nobody's going to say that you failed. You're just going to take a turn from there and be like, okay, next. I was listening to this story of the lady that I think she came up with the Spanx. The things we can't breathe in. And everything bubbles out the top and below. I heard her say in an interview that she was in, what store was it? Department store. One of the big ones. One of the big, Neiman Marcus, I think. Okay. And you think, okay. She said that her Spanx, her product, got put way back in a corner with the chonies and the whatever, right? Nobody's ever going to see it. And if they've never heard of Spanx, they're not going to look for it or ask for it, right? So she went to the internet and she bought a bunch of little displays, and she went in the store herself and she took it and she put it right next to the register. And she put her little Spanx in there and she walked out.
There you go.
And by the time the store figured out, well, did you put that there? I thought you put that there. Wait, did you put that? Who put that there? Did you merchandise that? I thought that. Who put that there? She'd already sold a ton of them. And all these people now knew who she was. So it just took kind of that gutsy move to be like, I think this needs to go right here. You know? I love that. It's like
Awesome.
thinking out of the box, right? And yeah, going door to door. You want to try my chicken? You know, or Marie Callender with her pies. Business was hurting and she said, can I make a pie? Let's see if we can sell a pie. And the next day they had people coming in requesting pies. And so then they started ordering her pies, having her make the pies.
Crazy.
And it led to Marie Callender's restaurant.
I was just